some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah, hope I get away with it. Oh, da doo-dah day.
Hi there, folks. I'm Dan Hollifield. Welcome to Last Man Standing. I seem to have the podium alone tonight, so maybe a short one. Then again, maybe other folks will show up in due time. Do not know, and quite frankly, it doesn't matter if anyone expects me to monologue for 2 hours. I think about 30 minutes is the longest I can talk about nothing at any one time without boring everybody to tears or putting myself to sleep. So that's about it. We shall see what we shall see. It's still relatively early in the other time zones. We have Thesis and Kitty in the chat. Hello and hello. And I could fill you in on what I've been doing uh, offline here lately. It's not an awful lot, but working on the barbecue grill in the pergola, covering it up, making it rainproof. Uh, Taking my wife back and forth to the chiropractor because uh, she's having sciatica pains and other pains relating to her shoulders and neck. And the chiropractor has been helping her quite a lot. She comes home pain free, but then get home and stress from the dog and the cats kind of throws a monkey wrench into that. But I just stay back here in my room and try not to cause any stress whatsoever. So I'm not causing her any pain. Um let's see. I'm almost ready for the first fire on the cast iron stove. I keep wanting to just go ahead and build a fire in it even if I just fry some bacon and scramble some eggs, just to go, hey, I'm using it. But today was entirely too windy for me to get out there and try and maneuver full size sheets of plywood for shelf enclosures in the wind. I was afraid I would get airborne. I was told to ask Foxy about becoming airborne from trying to maneuver sheets of tin or sheets of plywood or whatever, and I'm going. I'm not sure I have the right to know that information. Um, Sounds like a good time to me, except for trying to stick the landing. And I've got some I've got some firewood ordered. It has not been delivered yet, but basically it's two pull behind wagon loads, which should be about half a cord, maybe a full cord, depending on how the guy loads the wagon. It. I told him what our schedule was, so he didn't try and deliver it today. He might try tomorrow or over the weekend. It would be nice just to have it stacked up and ready to go into the storage for wood that I built around the barbecue grill. I still have to finish putting the uh, the stove pipes for the cast iron stove together and reinforcing uh, the attachment points for those because it's going to have to make like go up 2 foot, make a right angle turn, go out 4 foot, maybe 5 foot, and make another right angle turn to go straight up. Uh, I may have to go out and get a little bit more stovepipe. I do not know. That is pretty easily sourced actually in this area. Just have to go to the right store. And if you're wondering what I'm drinking tonight, it is Cruzon rum. It's not that strong, but it does taste quite good. I don't need a mixer for it. It is easily sippable. And as a chaser, I have Dos Equis beer, which is a nice change from the natural light. Although uh, I do hate accumulating glass bottles that we have to recycle. Um, I prefer cans that I can crush and store until we have enough to take off to the recycling center. It's not like I get paid for it. I just take it to the county landfill and let them get paid for turning it in to a paying recycling center. I don't mind. I aluminum can recycling used to be very, very profitable. You could get 75 cents a pound. And I had very large plastic bags that I scavenged from work that had gotten oil sprayed on them or whatever from some of the machinery. And I could get 75 to 125 pounds of crushed aluminum cans in each bag. And when I first started taking that off to the recycling bin, it was basically five, almost 8 75-pound bags per pickup truckload, which came to a pretty penny at that time. However, the price of taking your own cans to a recycling center has gone to a pittance. So now we just take it to the county landfill where the county gets the money for taking it to a recycling center. And that's quite fine with me. I don't have to fill up a bunch of bags. I don't have to empty a bunch of bags into another bag. I don't have to drive it somewhere. And I don't have to go through did you steal this? No. Uh, it's not like it's copper pipe and you've got to ask me that question. Um, However, I do have a lot of stuff that could be recycled, but I'm talking about uh, copper wiring that used to go to the old well pump and a few other things that's just laying around in the way that I could get rid of. That will happen one of these days, but no, not now. I'm just a little bit too busy. Future plans for the barbecue grill. I've been asked to create a cooking channel. Outdoor cast iron stove cooking with Captain Dan. I've taken it under consideration. I don't know how many people would be interested in uh, Appalachian redneck hillbilly cooking done outdoors on a little bitty cast iron stove. It's not like Cowboy Kent where he goes all out, but you know, if enough people are interested, yeah, well, I'll go ahead and do it. I've got a camera I can use. The editing would probably be time consuming, but then all video editing is time consuming, especially if I've got to write my own music to go behind it. Because Lord knows I don't have enough music out there yet. It's only 9 albums. Uh, and I can't reuse stuff that other people are using for their streaming shows. I'd probably have to write something brand new. And that's not that big a deal. It just takes a whole day to do one song, and I might need like 3 per video, but that's neither here nor there. I've got stories I've got to finish too, which is a different kind of writing entirely. Um, there are people waiting to read these books I've yet to finish. I have been told so by the potential readers that I need to get off my chair and get the stuff typed up and out there. So I'm taking that as a positive reinforcement. Now, other than that, uh, working on the pergola for the barbecue grill has been a nice exercise in reusing skills I learned from drafting classes in college, planning things out, trying to get the steps lined out so that I don't do the second thing first or the fourth thing first, and then have to go back and tear stuff out because I did it before its time. I started to say prematurely, but there'd be a lot of childish laughter in the background if I said that. So, yeah, need to get everything in the right order of importance and necessity. And then we will proceed on that basis. And if you know George Carlin, you'll know exactly where I stole that line from and which routine it was. But I only steal from the best, and George was one of the best. Now, aside from that, let's see. I've still got materials to start repairing the living room, dining room, and uh, water heater closet floors so that any future water leaks or anything else will not damage them in my lifetime. After I'm gone, somebody else's problem. Uh, but while I'm still here, once I finish the work, I won't ever have to do it again, which would be a first. Usually I got to do stuff 3 or 4 times because somebody convinced me to try and cut corners and do it cheap instead of do it right the first time. This time I'm going, no, 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 no arguments. I'm doing it right from stage one. So you just have to wait. It'll just take time. And time is malleable and time is finite, but time is also valuable. So it has to be budgeted between this job, that job, and I don't want to say frivolous stuff like writing, but equally important stuff like writing. But there are things to consider and plans to make and mistakes to be outthought so that you think of what the mistakes would be before you actually make them, which pretty much translates into when you actually make the mistakes, it's ones you ain't thought of before or planned around before you got started. Oh, I've got to turn that heater down. It's getting entirely too warm in here. Uh, once I close the door so that I can do a broadcast, the heater starts working overtime and it gets just a little bit tropical in my office, even though it's uh, not quite Arctic outside, but when I was working, I would call this a very cold night outside and quite a warm night in here, but I just turned the heater down a little bit so maybe I can get it under 80 degrees in the office here. Although that is one of my more comfortable temperatures, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, but it's going to be somewhat slightly less when I open the door and go out for the next beer. So, yes, we have heating in the rest of the house, but my wife has control of that and she's a cheapskate, so I expect it to be, frost on the walls or whatever. Because she doesn't want to pay electric bills. And I'm going, I paid the electric bills. Can we please be comfortable? Uh, I don't intend to live the rest of my life pinching pennies wrapped up in multiple coats and blankets just to save 75 cents a month on an electric bill. I mean, seriously. Uh, I know there are a lot of people that their budgets are on that slender a borderline, but I'm not one of them. I'm comfortable and I want to stay comfortable physically. So, if I want to cut corners, I'll buy cheaper beer. Uh, Although that's kind of an impossible concept right there because I already buy some of the cheapest beer that's actually tastes like beer instead of bottled water. Uh, it's American beer, so British people will say, no, 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 that's Canoe Six beer for obvious reasons because it's very close to water, and I don't mind. It still has a taste. It's not a bad taste. It's a bearable taste, something I've gotten used to over the years. I used to drink much worse beer when I was younger, but then started dating a girl that, in order to save costs, I stopped buying one brand for her and one brand for me and just started drinking her brand. And even after we broke up, I never looked back. I got used to the taste of it. It's fine. Beer is one of those things where it's an acquired taste. Um, unless you're very young and you dig an awful lot of sugar and your parent or your influencer, not necessarily your parents, but an uncle or grandfather or whatever, is drinking one of those brands that is actually tastes pretty much like Mountain Dew, then you're not going to like the taste of it that much. But after a while, doesn't take that long actually to get acclimated. You go, hey, you know, it's hydration. It's only mildly intoxicating. I'm not going to go anywhere and risk getting a DUI, so I may as well relax and take a nap when necessary and have a good time socializing with people, which is quite a lot of what life is all about. Chris, thesis, correct me if I'm wrong, but um, learning how to socialize safely is one of those challenges that everyone has to face, and quite a lot of us come very close to mastering before we get comfortable enough to really take the extra step to open up to close friends and be really comfortable in a social situation. Uh, some people will just open up and be comfortable in a social situation with complete strangers. I do not comprehend that level of lack of paranoia, but I know lots of people that do. So, you know, these things are possible. Um, However unlikely. Let's see. I need to go to the fridge and get Another glass bottle beer. It says there's no one here but me. I think I will play one of my uh, intermission video. Well, actually, I've only got one that I haven't deleted. So, yeah, Aphelion advert is way too short. So's the Porky Pig, which I'll just do this one, and I'll be right back. Oh, Richie's here. Okay. Well, I was gonna run to the beer fridge, but I feel awful about leaving you in charge while I run down the hall and take the chance of being distracted by my wife, who might want me to do something, even though she's probably in bed by now.
Oh, actually, that's the reason I popped in. I'm like, he's solo. He needs to run the beer fridge. Someone needs to run interference while you do that.
Well, just to make you feel better, and please don't leave while I'm out, I'm going to go ahead and play the intermission video anyway because I kind of like the music that I wrote for it.
Right.
And I never use it most of the time, but it's a 3-minute pause in case down the hall includes more than the kitchen. So we'll be back in a few. And thank you very much for popping in, Richie. I didn't expect anybody else. I mean, I was going to give it another 3 or 4 minutes and then close it out because, hey, there's only so long I can monologue and not bore everybody to tears, which I probably passed about 27 minutes ago. Uh, I'll be back in just a little. Oh, well, I was listening to that as I went to the beer fridge, and I'm going, oh, wow, I forgot how Asian that That one sounds. Excuse me. Pieces might like that. Um, I don't know. I have a lot of trouble trying to predict how people will react to something. There's one song on one of my albums I absolutely dislike, and a lot of people seem to think that's the best thing on the album, and I'm going, have you listened to the rest of it? Uh, but no, there's no accounting for taste. Uh, Joe Dog says my strategically lighting cigarettes and pausing to let somebody else get a word in edgewise is very Nor as far as filmography is concerned. I'm going, I can't help it. It's not like I have the Tonight Show Orchestra on standby. As much as I'd like to hang out with Doc Severinsen and find out where he buys those pretty coats, uh, or find out how Tommy Newsom managed to stay awake when he looked like he was about the most laid back guy in the entire music industry. Uh, oh, yeah. Thesis, I said chair because I was probably trying to avoid saying another word entirely. And Chris is pointing out that, yeah. And one of the biggest issues with homeschooling is a lack of socialization.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to be around other people. Yes, that is entirely correct. While you may wind up with a far better education than in public schools if you are homeschooled, the socialization skills are really going to be. Oh, Misty,
Love you too, Misty. Dance us out.
I love her too.
And he says he loves you too. Love you.
Misty is
But
really sweet. You are one lucky man, I tell you.
from what I can tell, the difference between, Lindsay and Misty are a couple of years and a continent.
That's about it. Well, two continents, but yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, two cultures and a couple of years. Let's put it like that.
2.5.
Well, Lindsay's very
Multicultural.
well. Yes, but most of it that I get to see is um, World War II survivor mentality, which is a lot like my parents and grandparents surviving the big economic crash in the 30s. But the similarities are quite the same. The adaptability is exactly the same. The use it up, wear it out, make it do mindset is exactly the same. but the details are different from culture to culture.
Yeah.
Thesis? Let's see. Brother-in-law bitched and moaned about the school district here, so he moved back to home, where they have the best school system in the nation. Now he's homeschooling his kids. Yeah, obviously he's not from Knoxville.
Homeschooling is a double-edged sword.
Yes, it is.
Um, it's you have to actually have the um, parents that not only have the want, but the knowledge of actually how to help assist in the education. Like my best friend and his wife, they are homeschooling their kids, and they're doing really good at it. They did a little bit of public school, but the public school system started doing some really weird shit around them, so they're just like, screw it, we're homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's they're doing good, but it's um, he's an IT guy, and she's been a homemaker since the kids were born. So I mean, it's perfect for that. And he's a well paid IT guy working for um, one of the top security software firms in the country. So
Well, it helps when you can actually research the subjects that you are not personally well acquainted with, but the kids still need to learn.
and can afford to get the the better homeschooling products that are out there.
Lindsay
But
Lindsay homeschooled her 3 kids, and they all wound up proving themselves to be exceptional. Matter of fact, her youngest boy, or her only um, biological son, is a freaking genius. He graduated college at 18,
nice.
and he went to work for uh so it wasn't JPL. It was one of the laboratories in California, and then moved over to one of the ones closer to New Mexico, and wound up doing computer science for an alphabet agency, which we were not allowed to know much about until after that job was finished. And he's
Is
still
that the one that you're really not allowed to know where he's at any given time?
yeah, because it would be a security risk if we were kidnapped and tried to coerce information about his job.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's as far as we know, that stage of his life has ended. But still, uh, working at those particular labs has been an eye opener for him. I mean, originally he wanted to just design computer games. Now he wants to design computers.
It is kind of a gateway drug.
Yeah. Um, he is actually converted all his keyboards from QWERTY to oh, I forget what the other one is right now. Uh, uh, it's one I wouldn't understand how to use just from looking at it, but all the letters are in a different order. Uh, but it makes sense to him, and hey, his typing speed is much faster than mine, so I'm not going to complain. That he jet sets all over the world, contributes to research programs, and then comes back home. He at let's see, he's about 25, maybe 27 by now, and owns his own home in I think it's in Albuquerque, I'm not sure. Beautiful place. I love Albuquerque. I absolutely love the grid pattern that everything is laid out in. It's so easy to navigate,
You just
especially
got to
for
remember to take a
somebody.
left there.
Yeah, well, um, it's only if I'm going south. If I'm going north, I need to take a right. Uh,
Only if you're traveling by underground tunnel. Should have turned left at
yeah,
Albuquerque.
I
Sorry,
got the ref
Bug,
I
Bugs
got the
Bunny.
I got the reference, believe me. But I'm just going, ooh, I'm thinking in three dimensions. That's not going to help Richie's joke. Um,
Not much is going to help my joke. I'll admit that.
oh, oh dear, thesis. That is a problem. Problem is he's a moron and his wife isn't much better, so I'm not terribly enthusiastic about either one of his them trying to teach kids. Uh,
My
Fortunately,
ex psychopath was homeschooled, and she did a good job educationally. The three of her siblings, other people did their homework for them, so they never really got the
they
education that they needed to.
they never really got the challenges needed to learn.
And then when she went to college, everything was the professor's fault. And it's like, no, this is how you're supposed to act and do things in the real world.
Hmm.
Um, it's the professor isn't holding it against you. The college isn't making you do this because you were homeschooled. The college is making you do this because you need to have this kind of proficiency in this kind of math in order to be able to go ahead and take the math you want to take. So you're going to have to take a couple rounds of remedial shit.
Yep. Um, I ran into the phenomenon where I was exceptional in high school, and when I got to college, I was merely average. Because college is where the really exceptional people from all the high schools went for higher education. That did not trouble me at all. I just worked harder. Um, I wound up learning a lot, not only academically, but a lot more social skills in college than I had learned in high school because I was kind of, uh, I don't want to say antisocial, but I was uh, very shy and withdrawn and focused on what mattered in high school, which apparently was not um, sports or fast cars or um, hunting for a future bride. But by the time I got to college, I go, well, let's see, I'm not sporty. I have these skills. I've been developing them for decades. Let's see what I can do with that. And as far as social, I'll just have to go out and meet people. and hang around and pick up stuff from them. And luckily enough, I did not have any tisms that prevented me from doing that. Um, and it was a whole lot easier for me than it is for some people. And I do understand people that do have um, difficulty with picking up social skills, either because of uh, biochemical imbalances or whatever.
Bad wiring. Well, not okay. Bad wiring's not the right way to say that. Different wiring.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Um,
it's college allowed me to find my tribe. Um,
exactly.
there, I had a couple members of my tribe in high school. Nick's nephew was one of them. Um, uh, but uh,
Well, the hardest part was different differentiating between members of your tribe and people that were almost there but were highly pissed about certain social things that they just couldn't figure out how to do and were excessively snarky towards the people that were naturally good at it. Now, college was
so
not that way. College was, hey, if you can do the work, we're here. And hey, let's go out for pizza and a couple of beers later. I
grade
certainly fit
school,
right in.
grade school, I went from idiot classes to advanced classes. And well, I was in the advanced math for the first few years, and then my dyscalculia kicked in because then too many digits were getting involved, and then things were changing, and 12 and 21 both make sense looking at the problem. The
Mm,
difference is 12 and 21 gives you totally different answers. So I went from the advanced math to the remedial math. I learned how to speed read, so I went from remedial reading to the advanced reading, because my reading comprehension outstripped everyone else in the grade, because with the way my brain worked, I had the perfect storm of early education, um, educational setbacks, that just powered off of each other. OCD and ADD. So my attention would jump from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. But the mild OCD meant I had to have a pattern. So it would just snap back to the very first thing. So basically, the human memory usually takes 5 to 10 passes on something before it starts latching on and becomes a memory. So just by the way my brain worked, I was looking at these things and going over these things 10 times in the time that a normal person went through it once, because of the ADD and the OCD. But I also learned to speed read because with everything else, I was dyslexic. So sometimes it took 10 passes of reading Jane Goes to the Store before my brain went, oh, Jane went to the goddamn store. Okay, I was in third grade. Jane went to the gosh darn store. But as soon as able to do that, everything stuck better in the time that it would take a normal person to read it once, and everyone thought I was just reading it once, but I was reading it multiple times so that I could actually
But
get
you
through
were
all the reading comprehension things.
you
So
were reading
everything
it
started
much
sticking as a
faster
memory.
than they were.
Yep.
Speed reading was a class in my elementary school. They showed us paragraphs of something on a screen, and most of the sentences were blacked out except for limited number of words, and it would flash along through there. So you would get parts of a sentence and try and make sense of the entire sentence. You had to be able to remember the earlier parts in order to get the entire puzzle. Naturally, I've been fairly decent at puzzles, but this was a school system that is trying to train people to be scientists at Oak Ridge. So it was very good. It was geared towards the machinists and physicists and their children who lived in the area that quite possibly would never leave the area in their entire life because that was in the very, very early 60s, and that's the way life was back then. But they gave everybody those comprehensive tests that the military uses about every other year. And by fourth grade, I think, they had divided everybody up by their reading levels, which was kind of weird, but it worked for me. I don't know how it worked for people that couldn't read as well as me because of my natural interest in science fiction and whatnot. I got a lot of advanced knowledge outside of school, and my recreational reading was somewhere in between devouring each month's issue of Reader's Digest and going through my mom's copies of Paradise Lost. That's nowadays I see what kind of a mind twister that was, but back in the day, that was what I had. You put written words in front of me, and I spent time reading them. Didn't matter if it was comic books or big little books or stuff that I should not have been able to understand at that age, and probably didn't the first 10, 15 years until I had enough emotional maturity to be able to go, oh, no wonder Mrs. Milton thought Milton was boring. And then there were a lot of other stuff too. There were books on mythology from across the world. There were books written in a more humorous form to try and engage children my age into learning popular U.S. folk characters and things like that. There were religious tracts. There were, well, of course, the Bible, but after I finished reading that one cover to cover 5 times, people are going, you you're starting it over again. Don't you have it memorized? And I'm going, well, no, there's a lot of stuff here. Some of it's history, some of it, I don't know what it is, and some of it's philosophy. And the philosophy is a little above my pay grade, but I'll get it one of these days. And things kind of proceeded from there. Dad had an engineering book that I still have that taught me how to do blueprints on, uh, well, from everything from a workbench to an entire house, i- including wiring and plumbing and planning out where uh, the studs are spaced and how many boards you need for this wall and what the outside cladding would be like and what kind of insulation we're going to. This was all just a textbook he had to learn for his job. And Dad was really good at being a machinist. I mean, you could give him a machine shop of motorized tools and a pile of metal and a blueprint, and he could make anything. I've never gotten that far, but I can look at blueprints and they make sense to me, which came in handy when I was doing interior design classes in college. They thought, well, you're never going to be able to get a job here. You're not gay. I mean, seriously, the only people that can be interior designers have to be queer. And I'm going, well, sorry, can't you make an exception in that rule? Um, and then people invented CAD programs where I could just draw out the stuff I wanted and get the calculations done for me, and didn't have to worry about manual uh, graphite pencil line quality to tell the difference between exterior wall, interior wall, studs, wiring, plumbing, whatever. I learned all that stuff the hard way. And then CAD came around and made it much easier. But, I'm kind of glad that they discouraged me from trying to get a job in interior design because my sense of fashion was never in vogue with what was current at the time. It was always antiquated. I wanted to do things that were designed like the 1920s, the prosperous part of the 1930s. It's
All
I
5 minutes of it.
well, um, in between the Great Depression and the beginning of the war, yeah, um, might have been a year or two, but in architectural design, that's when um, a lot of revolutionary stuff came about, which I'm still not comfortable with a lot of the things that have since become uh, not quite vogue, but retro. And I was back then. I was thinking, oh, this is cool. You do this wall this way. You put this kind of architrave on that. You put this kind of balustrade on that. You build this kind of library, and um, you got a kitchen with a divided wall, so Daddy can see the nightly news from the kitchen table, And you don't have to worry about him going and sitting in a lazy boy and falling asleep before he finishes supper. They didn't quite like that philosophy in the drafting classes. It's all supposed to be Windows, Windows, let in the light. And I'm going, that's fine. Where
I
is
mean,
there?
go figure. And your love of steampunk, the retrofuturism, probably really came through in a lot of the stuff that you were probably doing for class.
It did. It did. Although I'd never put brass pipes on the walls and steam valves everywhere, but I should have. That would have really given them fits. Uh, had one art teacher that goes, "Oh, you're one of those," because I was doing sci-fi story illos for classwork. Larry Niven's Ring World, uh, Star Wars: The Trench Battle. I actually carved that in plaster of Paris.
Oh,
Yeah, I was impressed. Professor looked at it and go, "Oh, fuck. I'd hope we'd never have one of those." Of course, I also had another art teacher that was into the absolutely abstract, only blots of color on a 5 by 5 foot canvas.
all right. We're talking blots of color like Monet, tiny little ones, or are we talking blots of color like Jackson Pollock?
I think it was more like Jackson Pollock. Well, what he would do is he would spread uh, huge blobs of acrylic on a canvas that would just barely fit into a bathroom, set it up in the shower, and run the shower until the blobs went away and the colors mixed themselves on the canvas.
Really?
It was something I never thought that I would develop an appreciation for, but it was in its own way quite beautiful. It was as if someone decided to try and be abstract and then just set it outside and let nature take its course for 6 months. Of course, it was accelerated being in a shower. And then go, oh, I like the way that green blurred into that blue. That's really neat. It gave me an emotional reaction that I didn't expect from paint on canvas that did not contain a human figure or something. I mean, I'd gotten emotional reactions to uh, classic artwork from the Middle Ages and the Reformation and all up from there, but um, abstract did not really connect with me until I saw his completed work. It didn't hurt that he had um, REM and the B-52s doing the music for his art show when he decided to do one. And he what they did was they made up a chart of different numbers, everything like something for a D&D game, and they would roll dice and flip playing cards to find out what settings to put into a synthesizer that was hooked up to a guitar that was leaning up against an amplifier with nobody playing the guitar. And modulations of the feedback became the theme music for the art show. And I'm just going, I just met the B-52s. My God. Uh,
I'm not sure I would be able to stick around in that setting for very long.
mm, it was not loud. It was not jagged sounds.
Was it high and persistent?
It was almost Brian Eno's level of uh, uh, what is the term he used? Damn near unnoticeable. Uh, oh, I'll have to look that up. That's ambient. Ambient. I don't have to look it up. I finally remembered it. Um, that's what he termed stuff that is there, is persistent, changes noticeably, but is almost entirely background. It's almost entirely tinnitus.
Yeah, I would have to leave.
Well, you wouldn't have noticed it, really.
If it was almost tinnitus, it would probably exacerbate my actual tinnitus.
I thought exactly the same at the time, and that was after I'd been in garage bands. Um, but no, some of the combinations of dice rolls and card flips turned out to be atonal. But as soon as that happened, they'd go, got to change this, and go to another dice roll and another card flip and change the settings on the synth or turn the volume down on the guitar. So the feedback was not as.
Okay, so if they were taking care to do something like that for when it got um, a little much,
Yeah,
then yeah.
it was like a cross between elevator music and hold music, but not as aggravating as either. It was just kind of ambient, gentle, non rhythmic tones. Because they didn't have a drum, it was just sound waves. And it fit the professor's artwork so seamlessly that his art show was a really big hit. And 90% of the people didn't know that the people changing the settings on the synth were REM and the B-52s. They were not huge until about 2 years later, either one. Athens music scene is really diverse and has changed, I wouldn't say drastically, but dramatically over the years. There's been room for almost every style, and people have appreciated all of it. And different mixes of both. I mean, there were 200-year-old houses that were throwing keg parties in the backyard and in the house and on the front porch, and You didn't know who was going to be there doing the music, and you really didn't care because it was a party and beer was free, and you were a teenager. As long as you sobered up before you got in your car to drive home, everything was fine. And believe me, there were a lot of teenage romances cemented at those non-frat parties. They were in the same neighborhood. They just weren't fraternities. They were just people that were renting these big old ancient houses and wanting to have a nice weekend party. Now, I seldom talk about college. I don't know why. It was one of the best times of my life. Uh, the social aspects were probably one of the most educational periods of my life, actually. Uh, and I've learned a lot then and since then, and I shouldn't trivialize it. It was a lot of fun. It was the late 70s, and there was a lot of stuff going on all over in all the art scenes, the music scenes, and actually, I would say social scenes where people were finding their way and groping towards, as in my case, whom they would later become, trying to find out who they were. And having fun is not a bad path to go on when you're trying to find out who you are. Uh, in some cases, at a party, finding out who you never wanted to be again was a good thing. I One party I spent half the night trying to talk one guy down because his girlfriend got mad at him and they had an argument. He punched a hole in the hostess's wall. And I go, okay, I'm the closest thing they've got to an adult here. Let's go. And I stood there and talked to him for the rest of the night until he calmed down and finally got a cab home. And by that time, it was too late for me to drive home myself. So I called my parents and said, look, had to defuse the situation at the party. I'm not driving home right now. I don't want to put myself in danger. I don't want to get a DUI. Mom and Dad said, that's fine. We're glad you called. We're glad you're safe. And I spent the night with my girlfriend at that time. Did not progress to any further educational experiences, but it was emotionally rewarding for the level of honest intimacy that just holding one another at that young age was able to endow. Um, I mean, that was an education in and of itself that just having someone in your arms while you slept at night, knowing full well you were being their protector from a potentially bad situation you were able to defuse, was an enormous reward towards my confidence, my self esteem, without there having to be any pressure for biology to take over. Um, Probably did not say that very poetically, but I hope it came across clearly. Uh, I still see her at LibertyCon from time to time. She lives in Chattanooga. She's uh, found her perfect mate, and he is a great guy. I really like him. And she's a sculptress. She was into graphic arts back then, but she does fantastic things. Very, I wouldn't call it steampunk, but the aesthetic is the same. Making sculptures out of what other people would consider to be junk.
Repurposed materials.
Exactly, but the designs are well thought out and executed beautifully. Of course, she's also a damn good painter. Uh, but she was majoring in designing fonts for graphic design at the time we were in school. Now she's pursued other of her artistic talents, and she's knocking the world over because she's really good at it. And as I said, he's a really nice guy. I like him. Um, what can I say? I only date the best women. Uh, well, I can't say that really because sometimes I made some bad decisions that were based on biological needs instead of common sense. But that's college too.
Yeah, my college career wasn't very long either time. Um, uh, it helped me learn how to mask. In sophomore year of high school, I realized I didn't have to mask to be happy. But in college, I realized I needed to mask in order to um, progress in areas where I'll be able to actually support myself.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Now I understand.
so, it's, mask during the day job and, you know, take that mask off and, be who I really am outside of the day job. Yeah, it's,
Sometimes you have to hide the freak flag. Um,
especially when you end up going into customer service and roles of that nature. Can't be the carefree, goofy dumbass. You gotta, put on a little bit of professionalism. Then getting into the factory was great because nobody fucking cared. I didn't have to wear the mask. And there were some people who were extremely concerned that I wasn't wearing the mask, and then realized that I was a much more authentic individual because I didn't wear a mask and I didn't give any fucks, and that was great. And then had to put the masks back on because I started working help desk around the other geeks in the office and in the area. I could let my regular goofy ass self go, but as soon as that phone rang, I had to be able to turn on the "Hi, thank you for calling the help desk. This is Rich. How can I help you today?"
Mm-hmm.
And switch into the almost radio announcer voice.
Yeah.
I was accused of that in a class the other day. It's like, you got a very radio voice. I'm like, I'm sorry. She's like, no. It's good. It's calming. I'm like, that's kind of why it developed that way. Try to smooth out any situations and I don't know.
Yep. With me, I call that my Spock voice. It is very precise, very grammatical, very calm and soothing. And I use it mostly when I have to interact with someone else's customer service. That way, I'm not the raging asshole that they talk about in the break room after my call is over.
You have
It's
no
hey,
idea how calming other help desks makes veins in my forehead throb.
well, I was going, hey, look, I've got a problem. I don't know what this is. I've tried this. I've tried this. I've tried this. I've gone through this checklist. Everything seems to be okay, but the problem is still there. Can you sell me a vowel? Um, just kind of. I was one of the people who call the help desk and they go, "Oh my God, it's him! Thank God!" Uh, and it was only
I
like twice a year. Um,
I call the help desk and people are like, "Oh my God, it's him." Um, it's the Ask One guy. There is still one individual over at Comcast that I really hope he was fired. And it takes a lot for me to wish a technician gets fired. It was after our landlord sold the house out from under us, and we moved in with Dad for a little bit. Talked to Comcast, and they said, "Oh yeah, you can put everything on hold. Everything's good to go. X, Y, Z. It's
and
stuff
they
that
lied.
we can do on our end." And I'm like, all right, cool. I thought everything was taken care of. And then the next month, I had a bill from Comcast for $8,000.
That was one expensive help desk call.
we were behind, but we were, when I called back, I'm like, why is this going on? This is supposed to be paused. And they're like, oh, you can't pause it if you're behind. All right. The other dude did not tell us that. So I was a little livid about that. And then they're like, and you're the one who has to go to this website over here and pause it yourself. We can't pause it for you. He said he could pause it for me. I would like to speak to your manager, please. Yes, I went Karen.
Well, justifiably so.
I tried to talk calmly, and in the course of it, I did end up starting to scream and shout because I was just getting pissed off. And I'm like, go listen to your fucking tapes. I know you record for quality assurance. That's what he put in that ticket is not what we discussed. Go listen to the tapes. It took me 3 calls, 3 different supervisors before someone actually went and listened to the goddamn tape.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Thesis was saying when he did telemarketing, best responses he got when he stopped with the BS voice and just went straight with the customer. Yeah, well, yeah, customers appreciate that.
Well,
and
when you're selling, you need to be authentic. When you're trying to fix a problem, you need to try to use, Carl's
diagnostician voice. Yes.
You've got to calm people down. You've got to say shit that's not true. And I'm not saying mislead them or anything like that, but oh yeah, it's a wonderful day here. Everything's going great. Oh no, this isn't a stupid question at all.
We'll teach you how to not break your cup holder the next time. Although you're going to have to replace the cup holder drive. Yeah,
but yeah,
I've heard that
I
one.
mean, we've had to play a few games,
yeah,
but so good.
When I've had to call customer service, I tried to be that guy that they were glad to hear from, not, hey, I'm angry and it's all your fault. No, it's not. I'm having
I
a
don't
problem
start
because
out
I'm
angry.
stupid.
I don't start out angry, but when suddenly they're because I've exhausted their entire script before they've had a chance to say a word.
Yeah.
All right, I've done this, 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 I've done this. Well, can you? Did you not hear what I just said?
That was item 3 on the list of 7 that I've already done.
And when you know more and are doing more than the first level technician is permitted to do, then yeah. And then they don't know where to go and they're stuttering and stammering. I'm like, kick it up to the next level. I've exhausted everything in your list. Kick it up to the next level.
Yep.
But would if we sat there and did all of this together, would you have kicked it up to the next level? Yeah. I've just told you all of my results. You're doing diagnostic tests, what little you can on your side, and you're seeing I am not bullshitting you. Therefore, kick it to the next level.
Uh-huh. This is a problem beyond your experience and training. And it's no reflection on you. It's just, I'm not the typical user that you have to deal with. I've already gone through all this probably longer than you've been alive. Let's just
Yeah.
go on up and let me talk to somebody a little higher up the chain and they can decide whether or not I need to go even higher to get this problem solved. Oh, and Thesis is saying doing surveys over the phone. When I answered the call with a smile, people hung up, bitched me out, and other not so pleasant interactions. When I was straight, I usually got through. Yeah, uh, look, I mean, seriously, if you're getting cold called by somebody and they're going, "Hey, what did you think of this product?" And I go, "Well, I'd love to leave a review, but I haven't used it yet. It's still in the box. I'm just waiting on the weather to change before I can use it." And they don't take that for an honest answer. Or, yeah, there was nothing wrong with it, but it didn't solve my problem. I think I misdiagnosed the error that I had. Maybe there's something else I need to do, and then kick it up to the next level, which is not necessarily Kieraning, but it sometimes you feel like it is when it actually isn't. It's just, yeah, I'm
Yeah, I don't
I'm a
consider
little
me.
above your pay grade. Can we bump this up to somebody that's more conversant with this kind of problem?
Yeah, I don't consider that caring when I have to do something like that. Yeah,
Well, it
uh,
can be depending on your manner. If you're not polite about it, it if
well,
you're not polite about it, it can definitely be Karening. But if you're going, look, I've tried all that three
it's not
times
necessarily
already.
not being polite. I mean, I'm not being impolite, but I'm not trying to invite them out for drinks later either. It's like
Mm.
I've got to get this shit fixed. This is what I've done. Can you know? Is there more in your script we can do, or does this have to go to level 2? And
And
it
actually, you
that
are you are far more familiar with that level of you've got this. This is as far as you can go. You got to bump this upstairs. Um, I was just playing it by ear, but you have been the person on the receiving end and going, well, that's above my pay grade. I'm going to have to bump this upstairs. Or you have been the person upstairs.
yeah, and that's what I try to get across. And I'm like, I'm not trying to step on your toes or anything, but I figured I know all the questions you're going to ask, all the things you're going to have me do. I've done it 3 times just to make sure the first 2 weren't flukes. Did it 3
Mm,
times. You know, once, things happen. Twice, could be a coincidence. 3 times, there's smoke, there's fire.
yeah, really. 3 times is enemy action. Um,
So this is what I've done. Can we you know get this kicked up to the next thing, or write your ticket up, kick it up to the next level? I'll give you my contact information so that they go ahead and call me back when everything is ready on their end, because there might not be a second level technician that can take me right this very second. I understand that. And I'm like, I
Certainly.
work at the desk. I understand it. So I'm not trying to belittle you or anything that you're doing. It's just, why waste your time doing what I just did 3 times to save you the trouble of having to do it? You know, but half the time there's script monkeys, and
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with the script monkey. You know, the term sounds worse than it really is, but it's sometimes
It's
there's been
it's
times
an
I've had to
entry
be a script monkey.
level it's an entry level job. You might not have learned all the nuances yet. Almost said that incorrectly. But there are
Excuse the word
times
nuance.
when you have to go, this is beyond my pay grade. I'm going to have to kick this upstairs.
Yep.
And at my ISP, because I had one of my staff who was part of their staff, and they gave me the direct line to about stage 3. And nowadays, I just call her and I say, "Hey, this is Dan." And they go, "Oh yeah, how you doing? You've been one of our customers for, oh my God, almost 30 years now. What can we help you with?" I go, "Well, I've got this problem. I've tried everything I know how to do, but I can't solve it. Can you direct me to somebody that's savvy enough to figure out what I'm doing wrong and polite enough not to make me feel like an idiot?" And she goes, "Oh, well, um, let me connect you." Boom. I've got help desk on my level, which is, decidedly lower intermediate, not I write code for a living. Uh, but,
Now, I admit I cheat. If I get and find numbers that allow me to bypass the normal lower entry level desks and stuff like that, I've got customer retention on my phone, so that if I call and my first attempt through regular support is not going the way that it should, all right, end this call customer retention, and go, all right, this is what's going on. You know, I need this fixed, or I'm just going to say to hell with it, and I will go back to Frontier. And honestly, if you are making me have to go back to Frontier, that is bad, because I swore to never use them again.
I just basically go, "Hi, Nikki. Um, yeah, you've got my number. You've got my information already popped up on your computer. I've got a minor problem. Could you reconnect me with somebody that can help me do this? And I'll quit wasting your time." And she goes, "Absolutely, Mr. Hollifield." And bang, I'm connected to somebody that knows exactly what my problem is and has a multitude of solutions that I can pick from. An entire um, smorgasbord, basically. and none of them include increasing my bill, but just kind of going, "Hey, um, I've just scanned your website, and I'm going, there's these totally unnecessary log files that you can't stop from happening, but if you delete these, it'll free up all kinds of space. So go to cPanel in your account and delete these log files. I'll email you a list of what the file names are so you don't get the wrong ones, and that'll free up all kinds of stuff and make the website go faster. And it works every time. Uh,
I
yes,
told you about my adventure with Frontier, didn't I?
um, I'm aware that Frontier was not someone on your Christmas card list.
So Frontier Communications, so many years ago, was my phone and internet provider, and I enjoyed them for a while. And then there was a situation in which um, they had to replace my modem, and shortly after they had to replace my modem, um, the modem needed to be replaced again, and they refused to. I called the help desk numerous times because I was having to bounce my router 6 times within 1 hour.
Mm.
Bouncing a router once a day, I can handle. I'm fine. Yeah, shit happens. Bouncing a router 6 times in an hour while you're trying to play World of Warcraft.
That's left the reels the realms of fun a long time ago.
And this was wired. I'd gotten sick of trying it wireless, so I went wired. And this is one of the cases where I bounced the router multiple times. I bounced every computer connected to it, whether it was hardwired or um, wireless, multiple times. Everything that was wireless, I wired. All of them having the same issue. So yeah, there's an issue with the router.
Yeah.
And it's they refuse to replace it. So I'm like, all right, I stopped paying them. And here's the thing: their excuse me, their policy at the time was if there was an open trouble ticket, they could not disconnect me. So for 1 year, I had really shitty service for completely free because again,
Open ticket.
they're not fixing it. I keep calling them, telling them to fix it. They're like, well, you've got an open balance here. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll pay that balance when you finally fix the problem and I actually have internet that works. They didn't like that answer. But
Nope.
finally, after a year, they finally sent me a new router. And they were willing to give me a little bit of time to pay the year back worth of stuff. And I was trying to argue with them, like, well, I didn't have proper service within that year. Maybe we can have a deal here, and I'll pay some of it. But as much time as everything was down, that I should not have to pay full price for the.
Yes. Um,
They had my service fixed. They were like, all right, you know what, screw you, buddy. I'm like, all right. And then I went to Comcast, and I have not looked back. I should say I came back to Comcast, and I have not looked back.
I had a slightly different problem when I switched from dial-up to what was the next step back in the day? Why do I want to call it
ISDN?
DSL?
Yeah, DSL would have been the next step up.
Yeah. I
Well,
had
either DSL or ISDN.
I had bought my own DSL router, and then when that got struck by lightning many years later, guy came out and go, "Well, here's your new router," and cut the power cord for the adapter to the DSL to plug it into the wall. And I go, wait a minute, that doesn't belong to you. That's mine. I bought it at Best Buy, and you just destroyed the power supply. And they're going, fuck it, don't care. You weren't home, your wife approved. I'm going, all right. You want to play it soft? I can play it soft. You want to play it hard? I can play it hard. And from then on, I've not given them any leeway on anything whatsoever. The service person took it upon themselves to assume that this was their company's property instead of private property and proceeded to destroy it. And I'm going, well, I had a couple of laptops I could use on that, but now, unless I want to go all creative electrician and rewire the plug, I can't. You just destroyed my property. Not your property, which you thought it was, but I can't afford a lawyer to make you suffer for this, which is, the only reason to hire a lawyer is make the other party suffer. Because basically, you're not getting anything out of it. They're not getting anything out of it. The lawyer's the only one that will ever get anything out of it. And all parties concerned, except for the lawyer, no disrespect for your employers, is going to come out the loser of this particular Richard waving fight. Um, and believe me, you're way too big for me to pick up on and to wave around. But
There's two reasons. There's two reasons to hire a lawyer. One, to make the other person suffer, and two, to make sure that you suffer the least. Because an attorney can guarantee one, at least one or the other. Maybe not both, but at least one or the other.
I've never had the second one apply to any reason I've had to hire a lawyer. It's always ended in suffering for me, but then again, it may have ended in much worse suffering for the other party. I hope. Can't check
Well, there's
with
a lot
them
of times.
because I don't have a Ouija board, so Not the lawyer, they're the person that hired them. Um, oh, and that sounds like my mom's rose bushes are going to look really good this year. No, no, no. Uh, I've got to go to the beer fridge. Richie, if you can save me from this contriums. Actually, I spoke French. Tish! Uh, I will return quite shortly if you can. And Lindsay's gone to bed, so I'm not going to get waylaid on the way and asked to supervise the dog's next visitation outside. Because the dog's probably in bed or laying in the hallway going, "Will you shut up and come to bed?" And I'm going, "Dog, you have gotten the uh, dynamic of this relationship. Uh, I buy the food, she gives you the food. You don't nag me about anything. Got it?" Well, dog doesn't get it. Evidently, that's somewhere beyond teenager level. Because the dog is basically a teenager right now, and we're going through teenager dog problems, mostly not the green room. Uh, but I will return momentarily. I'm really surprised I haven't had to make a dash down the hall yet. Evidently, I am dehydrated. I'll pay for that tomorrow. Oh God, it's like Tony Stark trying to take his helmet off. That hurt.
All right, folks. No, I've already used the deer and headlights way early on in the time with Dan, so I guess I need to actually behave and actually do something, say something. So, remember everyone, go out and check out Aphelion Webzine or Aphelion-webzine.com for some great fiction from some great folks throughout past 27 years, I believe it is now. You can find some good fiction out there from some of our current friends and from individuals and stuff from the past. There's some really great story writing prompts are out there as well. Just some really great thought provoking and scene provoking things that I've used throughout the years. Uh, Even before I actually met Dan in virtual and then actually in person later on. So, Aphelion-webzine.com, a ton of really great material from Dan, Bladed Thesis, Donna Carlene. I believe Foxy's got a couple stories out there. Kitty has a story out there. Trying to think of who else. Chewbacca's got a couple of stories out there. So it's a good place to get a lot of really good speculative fiction on many different flavors, science fiction, fantasy, and just a lot of talent throughout the years. And I've even had the chance to get a couple of stories out there, and they were fun things to write, and I hope to have a long and no pun. Actually, I take that back. This pun is intended, so I'm not going to lie and say it's not intended. Hopefully, I'll have a very long and storied future with Aphelion and creating stories and working with Dan. Um, if fiction is not your thing, indiecd.org has a lot of really talented creators that in many different genres and mediums that are just it's really great, and it's again indiecd.org because it is too much fun to be a .com.
Yes, I am back, and I apologize for the extra minute and a half it took, but I decided just for insurance that I would stop halfway back down the hallway and perform a biological necessity if it would happen, and it did, which means there's nothing wrong with my prostate. So, oh wait, no, that goes over here. That's the trouble with having habits. You have to put things back in the same place over and over again so you can find them when you look for them. Now,
I thought it was because everyone would always confuse you for a penguin, but apparently it's the wrong kind of habit.
I would be very popular in a convent, but I'd probably have to hide a lot.
Well, it would depend if the nuns preferred tacos to sausage.
These things are adaptable. They're on the menu. What is this one? Highland Brewing. Can't read the other. Gaelic Ale. Okay. Let me finish off the Killians here. Still got.
Killians.
Killians is one of those things that is. It doesn't matter what kind of beer you like. Killian's seems to be a special treat. But I think I've had this Highland Brew before, and it's not bad, especially given my proclivity towards dark beer, which is probably a medium between dark and Canoe 6 beer, which I normally drink. Sorry, natural light, but close to water.
My first attempt at drinking Killian's did not go well.
Oh,
I did not like the taste. Granted, I was 12.
that was a little bit early.
My parents were, hey, you can drink with us. You can have a beer when we're having a party or something like that, or a mixed drink or something like that. Maybe to depending how long the festivities are going on and how long they give me a break between them. So that when I got older, I wasn't going to all these high school kegger parties and stuff like that because I didn't need to. I could drink at home with my parents and just say, is tonight a night that I could have a beer or whatever. And it's it actually set me up to be a very responsible drinker.
Yes, I actually got resistance from I won't say which family member, but because my great uncle on my dad's side was an alcoholic that had to fight it off and recover, I was not inclined to even approach alcohol in any way, shape, or form. And this family member goes, well, in moderation, this is harmless. If you let it take control of you, it's nasty and you will regret it. But if you learn that moderation is not just for monks, then perhaps it will be something that you will enjoy the taste of later in your life when you become more mature, and not a pathway to laying in a ditch snoring while the neighborhood drives by on the way to their grocery store. And I'm going, okay, what is it? And they go, it's Mogan David. I go, you want me to start off Mad Dog 2020? Okay. Even in that day, I knew what the names were.
That was one that was always at the Thanksgiving table.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the reason I really am not much of a wine person.
Well, trouble is, it's a fortified wine. It's got extra booze added. However, if you just drink a little bit, it does taste okay. It's not enough to turn you off of the taste of actual wine, and it's not enough to make you stagger into convenience store. Sorry, I just whizzed on your door, but I'm feeling warm now. I'll take this 55-gallon drum of Ripple. Here's $5, and walk out. And
Thank you, Gallagher.
actually, I believe it might have been mix of Gallagher and Red Fox.
Well, Gallagher was talking about the 55-gallon of Ripple. Red Fox was probably talking about this one on the door. I can see him at least saying that. I don't know if he would actually do something like that.
Robin Williams. That's who it was. It was Robin Williams.
I could see Robin Williams actually pissing on somebody's door.
And the next line was, "Damn, I forgot to unzip my pants again. Well, at least I'm warm."
But so
We have been exposed to some of the most incredible comedic minds of the past century and a
ever
half.
of the past ever.
Well, no, there are some that we have not experienced because they were not recorded, except in certain scrolls and whatnot before books were very common. But no, I'm sure there were people in Rome and Athens that were just as funny as Robin Williams or George Carlin or whatnot, and knew when to stop before the Praetorian Guard showed up. But those records are not preserved except on walls in Pompeii with drawings of enormous penises and whatnot. Pompeii was a special case.
Yeah, Pompeii, smoke 'em if you are.
Yeah, really.
I'm going to hell for that one. Speaking of going to hell, I don't know if you saw in the Secret Humor group Joe Dog's post about he thinks he has a new fetish. Did you see that post?
No, because
It is.
I don't click on anything Joe Dog posts anywhere. I've
It
learned
wasn't anything.
better.
It wasn't anything that you had to click on. The video automatically played. It is a dwarf lady line dancing. I fought so hard not to reply to that post. What, tall girls?
Oh, you are evil. I love you. And thesis going, Robin Williams and George Carlin are basically responsible for my sense of humor today, with a sprinkle of Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor.
I'm probably more of an equal mix of all of them across the board, with a lot of Rich Little thrown in there as well.
Yes, and I'd have to
And
include.
Billy Crystal,
I'd have to include the Marx Brothers and
the brothers.
William Powell and Myrna Lloyd. If you have never experienced the Thin Man movies,
The funny thing is,
you should. That is the best description of Lindsay and I that I could ever try and point you to a video of, is the sarcasm and point counterpoint and smartass and counter smartass that
I
could
did
ever
not
happen.
understand. Well, I couldn't have. But it's weird how much my personality and sense of humor lends to that kind of stuff without ever watching those movies, at least in the full I might have seen snippets here and there and stuff like that, but last year I ended up buying the entire Thin Man series, and started watching them here and there. I've only seen the first two. I need to go back and watch the others
Oh,
because they're just
when,
awesome.
when they have a child and he's about 8 or 10, that's Dean Stockwell from Quantum
Oh
Leap.
wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so many other things.
So many other things, indeed. Um, now, there are
Dean
so many things
Stockwell
about
was a genius.
there's so many things about the Thin Man movies that inform my friends what Lindsay and I are actually like. And you met us, so you know, even without knowing that reference beforehand. Um, but yeah, um, are you packing, dear? Yes, just putting away this liquor. Um, there's a YouTube clip called Alcohol Moments, Nick and Nora, and it goes through
That's
all
like
the movies.
95% of the movies.
It's like 95% of my life, uh, especially after the sun goes down. Um, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. And they both have a wide body of work outside of that, but they were so successful as that particular team. They were just, it's like people thought they were an actual married couple when they weren't. They were just actors doing a role, but they had the chemistry to mesh so well together. Um, what hit me? The seventh martini. That's why you have an ice pack on your head. Um, oh, it's a new. You were shot in the tabloids, and that's a violent base accusation. They never came anywhere near my tabloids. Um, you got to have a vocabulary and a wit to be able to understand this stuff, which is why it's not more popular nowadays because people want
They
prepackaged
went
tabloids.
TNA and Dick and fart jokes.
Yeah, they don't want stuff they've got to think about, which is a shame because thinking is a superpower. Being able to make connections between otherwise unconnected things without leaping to false conclusions is a superpower. That lets out all the ancient alien stuff and 90% of the UFO stuff without leaping to unfounded conclusions. Um, there are movies out there. Oh God, there's a Tarzan movie. I am really surprised it's not absolutely X-rated, but it's so old it's free code, and I'm going. I I can see everything. I'm, mm, uh, I'm only 16. I shouldn't see this, but I'm looking anyway. Um, who is the actress? Who is the actress? than some of the original Tarzan movies. God, they got away with so much. There were swimming scenes when they were both entirely naked, and the cameras are sitting there underwater going, okay, cue the alligator, he's got a knife. And a rubber alligator attacked him. Tarzan, I mean. But, oh my God, Jane? I should look that up, but really, it's historical. You can look it up. It's on YouTube. It's not edited. I'm going, damn, she's hot. Um, and in more ways than one. Um, Obviously, she was excited doing that scene. Um, Maureen O'Sullivan, I do believe it was, if my memory can be trusted. Very, uh, very sexy in a. Nowadays, we think of her as a very skinny way, but at the time, incredibly attractive. And this is World War II era, and people are going to the movies to go, we wanted to see the Dick Tracy serial episode, but I've just been forcibly yanked through puberty by this lady in a leather bikini. Um, well, almost in this leather bikini. Um, Surprised that Playboy didn't offer a cover girl part, but she was probably deceased before it ever started publication. I don't know. They did manage to get Betty Page a couple of times. Betty Page thought that she was too old. Nobody wanted to look at her anymore. She'd had several unpleasant experiences modeling for New York photography clubs and was determined to just quietly vanish away. And then she became one of the icons of the age, actually.
Ages.
One of those timeless beauties, yeah, ages, that no matter their status among the living or the dead, the photographs of them are, well, I sort of say eye-opening, but I'm going, hey, you're not 16 anymore. I'm going, but it's Betty Page. Um, nah. And my wife actually forgives me for being totally in love for Betty Page, and she has bought me Betty Page stuff.
I've got another special spot for Betty Page in my heart because she and I share the same birth month and day.
Oh, that's incredible. That's wonderful.
Same with Jack Nicholson and Nabokov and J. Robert Oppenheimer and
Well, I share the same birthday with
Godzilla.
Godzilla and Roseanne Barr. I'm going, yep, two world-spanning disasters that we wish we could have avoided. But and Sputnik 2 was launched by the Russians about the same time my mother decided that, hey, I've been through labor enough. This kid's coming out now. Um, so basically, I entered the space age at about the same time the space age was created. And I've been trying to get back there ever since. Um, oh, God, there's lots of classic 60s TV and movie serial sci fi that's out there. Um, Captain Video and the Video Rangers. Um, oh Lord, there's dozens of them. There's dozens of them, and some of them I actually got a chance to see on 1960s TV as a child, and finally found them as an adult. Tracked them down and go, oh my God, that was the issue. That was the episode with the invisible spaceship. Yes, I love that back then, and it's not that corny now. It's about like watching Fireball XL5, where the physics is not quite accurate, but it's close enough. Um,
Listen to a uh, YouTube video of a gentleman talking about Galactica 1980. And it was interesting because I'm like, that's not how I remember it at all. But he's also remembering it as the late night, or not necessarily late night, but the prime time, TV slot where I'm remembering it as the syndicated Saturday morning cartoon. Or not cartoon, but live action. But you know what I mean. It was on at the same time that the cartoons and stuff were on. So
yeah,
um,
1980 had its moments. The original was what, 78, right after Star Wars?
78, then it was like a season off, and then it was a couple seasons of 1980. And
Yeah,
uh,
with the flying
it,
motorcycles.
the flying
It,
motorcycles and all that. And Dick Van Dyke's son was the blonde guy. I didn't know that till recently.
oh, yeah, yeah. Um,
But after I heard that, I'm like, I can't unhear it in his voice.
mm-hmm.
You can hear Dick in his voice.
That entire family has had a legacy that a lot of us will never easily forget. I mean, even my mother, the car, which was his brother Jerry in the starring role, rather than Dick, but that was still hilariously funny. Uh, but it was very, very 60s. Um, oh God, we're going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole here. Um, we've done almost 2.5 hours when I thought that it would be 10, 15 minutes of me monologuing. thank you very much for being here, Richie, and making this a much better show than I could have done on my own. I'm just about to hit the button, but oh god, now I've got to navigate to that venue.
Push
Well,
the button, Frank. Pull the lever, Crunk. Wrong lever.
well, actually, it's push the button, Max. Of course, that was Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis in The Great Race. Uh, if you have not seen that, oh my God, is that good? It's better than those magnificent men and their flying machines, but not geometrically better.
I haven't seen that in decades.
I actually have it on DVD and watch it at least once a year, just because when I first saw it on TV, I'm going, that's so cool. I've got to watch this. And Jack Lemmon is just one of the absolute iconic villains who was later parodied in a lot of cartoons. Mostly Hanna-Barbera, but not exclusively Hanna-Barbera. But that's one of those things where you just go, nobody's doing a stream tonight. I'm going to watch this stuff. And there you go. And no matter where you go, there you
There you
are.
are.
Oh, I'm going to watch Buckaroo Banzai again soon. It's been a long time. I don't watch that often enough because I've got it memorized. I don't have to watch it. I can just go, hey, Brainiac, replay that. And the video goes right through my eyeballs without the computer or VCR or whatever. Sort of like the first Star Wars movie, the first Star Trek movie. About 90% of Star Trek, the original series. Um, yeah, I've gone through it so often that it is indelibly printed on my brain matter. Sort of like Dark Side of the Moon. I don't have to put the album on. I just have to go brain, play, and I hear every note perfectly, including the scratches and skips on my vinyl, um, which I make no apology for because it's vinyl. It's perfect. Although, there's things to be said about the remixes that were done on compact disc. But, you know, different generations have their own fixes. Hell, I remember Ultraman on afternoon TV and going, "Oh wow, I wish there were more than 26 of these." And I found out there's a lot more, but not necessarily Hayata in the beta capsule. There's a whole mythos, a whole mythology behind that. It's
There's
complicated.
like 12 different series at the very least.
There are at least 3 animated ones too.
Yeah.
And they include some of the original voice actors. And I'm going, I'm in. And actually, one of the comic relief characters comes out to be one of the most serious actors in the anime. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, he was highly entertaining as a clown, but he was absolutely enthralling as an old man that knows stuff sort of hero.
Yeah, I really need to re-up Netflix for a month, um, just so that I can watch um, the Gamera series.
I just
Could
watched
they redid that as an anime?
I just watched today the original Gamera movie, and it was retitled Gamera the Invincible. Well, he certainly got vinced by the end of the movie, um, but I do know how that story goes and how the interchangeable godchild Kennies ruin that series. Um, but
Yeah, they made it child friendly, which explains why I liked it, because a god awful amount of them was put out during my childhood.
well,
Um, and
they
I was
they
the demographic they aimed at.
they made the swap during the period where Godzilla was transitioning between this god awful monster and this protector of the earth, and Gamera became the protector of children, and because it was a smaller production company, the scripts got cheesier as they went along. That doesn't mean they're not worth watching. It's just take them with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
Or, an entire boulder. If you're out near Thesis and them in Utah, you can probably dig up a pickup truckload and bring it home in one chunk. And nobody will notice unless you dug it up out of the speed test trial on the Salt Lake Flats. But on that note, we've gone 2.5 hours. Thank you very much, Richie, for making this more than a 10-minute video and for giving me somebody to talk to in this ego trip, which is Last Man Standing. But we shall see
but at
each
least it's a
other.
fun trip to join you on.
Hey, it's people I can readily admit are not only my peers, but in some cases, my superiors. They know things I don't know. I know things they don't know. It balances out,
There's a great
and
synchronicity.
it's fun. That's the thing. It's fun. So we'll see you hopefully tomorrow night in the green room, and hopefully Saturday night. Don't know if J Dog is going to use the same schedule he's been using for Stupid o'clock being a little bit early on Saturdays, and Last Man Standing being way early on Saturday nights. But if so, that's fine. We are nothing if not adaptable. Mm, Not the green room, not the green room, not the green room. Shut up, Dan. There are things in my mind I do not want to reveal.
Wrong kind of
It,
adapters.
it does sound like a Moody Blues song, but no. In my wildest dreams. Uh, Good night, Richie, and thank you for being here. Thank you for everything, and I look
Pleasure
forward
to be here.
to I look forward to the next time that we're not only just on camera, but in the same place at the same time, so we can sit down and talk in person. And please do convey my best respects to Misty and Crow, who is a delightful person. Um, they really are. Almost.
They don't realize how damn cool they are.
No, they don't. I wish they did. But I have children
Well,
in the same shoes. But
if they could, see 1% of how cool I think they are in themselves, they would just be ungodly egotistical.
Well, they are yours.
But I mean that's
It's
because
in
the
the
high regard
genes.
that's because of the high regard I have for them. So,
Hey, I have much and a little more or less the same regard. They're incredible.
they are.
And I've got to say, Misty is absolutely adorable. She's much more cool than she wants to admit. I'll say that with no reservations whatsoever.
I have to agree. I mean, I don't
And
have to agree. I choose to agree.
no matter how much we question why our spouses put up with us, we are,
I am
and
happy for whatever we did right and they did wrong.
I refuse to believe that I am Lindsay's punishment. I mean, I know karma works both ways, but I have been blessed, and I hope that she thinks she's been blessed. And these things proceed apace without our mortal intervention. Oh God, that bordered on philosophy. I better shut up before one of my friends kicks in and goes, "Hey, wait a minute! I got a degree in that." Good night, Richie.
I just
See you
say we need to end this
tomorrow.
before Carl starts cursing us.
Oh no, he started cursing us about an hour ago. But you go,
Oh,
oh,
40
Richie, he
minutes.
was going to end it in 10 minutes, and you showed up.
Whoops.
Yeah, well. Good night, folks, and go good guys.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down.
Woohoo!
System will shut down. System will shut down.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.